Hey crazy friends,
Hey
it's
guys.
Jay and Francis with Find Your Crazy. We are a full-time RV family traveling around the country to see every national park. And we are unbelievably excited about this video because this is our first national park visit. After all the COVID craziness, we finally got to one that was open and we could enjoy. And we want to share with you all of our adventures at the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Stay tuned. Alright, so that's right. In this video, we're going to share with you all that we learned from our crazy adventures at Great Smoky Mountains National Park. In fact, throughout this video, we're going to share with you our 4 must-sees.
Yes.
As well as 7 family pro tips that can help any size family, but especially a big family, maximize the time that they have at Great Smoky Mountains National Park. We went as a big family with 10 people. 10 people staying in an RV. It was the 2 of us, our 6 kids that travel with us all the time, and luckily our 7th child and her fiance were able to come. And so we had all 10 big family
first national park
doing this great first national park. So we actually stayed on the North Carolina side, just outside of Cherokee, and we based the entire time of our trip. We stayed almost 2 weeks. We stayed our entire time of the trip in that one place, and we looped everything out of there. But we realized pretty quick that was hardly a mistake. This place is huge. You just don't realize how big it is. The North Carolina-Tennessee line runs right through the middle of it. And though it's not the biggest by square acres, those are all up in Alaska, it is the most populous. And so there's always lots of people, and it just kind of slows everything down. And so it ends up being a huge park.
Right. So our first family pro tip would be to stay on the North Carolina side and on the Tennessee side. We spent so much of our time driving back and forth, which is really beautiful and wonderful. But if you have children and they're going to be kind of ready to get out and to see things, and after they've seen the same things over and over
third
again,
time over the mountain, they're done.
They're a little bit done. And so we would encourage you to maximize the time that you have there, because you might not have 2 weeks. Maximize your time. Stay a little bit of time in the North Carolina side and in the Tennessee side, so that you are at kind of those 2 big places. And we're actually going to divide up our video like that because we spent so much time on both of these sides of the park.
Couldn't fit it all in one video.
Couldn't do it. And so really we would say if you could do that, you would cut out a lot of the in-between time that really would allow you to really kind of dig in and the place where you are and spend most of your time seeing the sights, doing the things, and not just driving. But you should drive, but just not as much as we did.
And that takes us actually to our second family pro tip, which is find some ways to help you get organized. We found an amazing app that we want to share with you. It's the National Park Trail Guide, and it had a great layout of all kind of different hikes, must-sees, family-friendly hikes. It was a great way for us to look through and kind of see an overview of what are the things that other people have ranked big, and then we were able to organize those. It also kind of tells you about the trails, and so we were able to figure out which ones were right for our family and which ones weren't right for our family. So we would definitely say use something to help you get organized. One great way to think about how the Great Smoky Mountains National Park is organized is to think of it kind of as a big circle, almost really an egg on its side, with the North Carolina-Tennessee state line running right through the middle of it. And then at each of the main entrances, there is a tourist city. So North Carolina side is what we're going to be talking about in this video. And so that's Cherokee and Bryson City. And we stayed in Cherokee, which is great because it's actually the Cherokee Indian Reservation that you stay on. And we stayed right on the Oconaluftee River, just outside the gate. great. It's amazing.
We stayed at Yogi in the Smokies, and so we loved that
Man,
campground. You really need to look into that, especially if you have children. Even during COVID, they kept us safe and distance, but they also still had
Lots
great crafts and activities for children to do. So on those off days when you are at a national park, you're doing lots of hiking, lots of driving.
Slow down, take an easy day.
You need to recoup.
You've got it there at the park.
You really need to do that, and it is right, like Jay said, on the river, and it is beautiful. And that's actually our second pro family tip. Would be to stay right on the river. They have a few campsites right there where literally you open your door and you can step right onto the river. Yes, you can bring your floats. So many people were tubing and floating down, fishing, fly fishing right there in the river. It is amazing. Keeps it super cool right there. All the water keeps it nice and cool in that campground, and it is just beautiful. So if you've got a family, or even if you don't, you need to look at Yogi in the Smokies. Tip number 2.
And then as you come down, you actually have to drive through the little town of Cherokee before going into the park. And it is literally, as you can imagine, just eaten up with Indian culture. There are museums, authentic shops, even just out on the road. They have kind of booths set up, and they'll have authentic Indian dances. It was amazing.
Great
on
for
the weekends,
like
you can just entertain yourself for a day walking up and down the shops. Definitely something you want to spend some time doing. And while you're there, it's our first must-see around Great Smoky Mountain National Park. And that is the Funnel Cake Ice Cream Station.
Okay, so let me just note that it is a national park, and our first must-see is a funnel cake
Before
shop.
you get into the park, you need a little energy going into the park. There's 2 main reasons. Cute little place. It's right on the railroad tracks. Looks like a train station. 2 things. Smoky Mountain Fudge ice cream and deep fried fudge rounds.
Who knew?
I'm a big Little Debbie guy. Love me some fudge rounds. Deep fried is just right over the top. Most amazing thing I've ever put in my mouth. You've got to stop there. So stop in and visit that before you hit the entrance into the park. Then, once you're done with your adventures in Cherokee, you're ready to head into the main entrance of the park. Make sure you plan to stop by and get that obligatory selfie by the big sign. They actually have a parking area right there.
Love
it's great.
That. Good job.
Then once you head by, you go on in, and your first stop right inside the gate is going to be the Econo-Lufty Visitor Center. Now, this is just not a regular visitor center where you can get t-shirts and drinks. You can do all that, bathrooms. But what you really want to stop here for is our number 2 must-see, and that is the Farm Museum. Right here, outside the Econo-Lufty Visitor Center, what they have done is from all over the park, they went to the original homesteads that were there, and they gathered up these buildings from lots of different homesteads, and they compiled them into one little farm right there. So you can walk around and see not replicas, but these actual buildings that were taken, that were used for hundreds of years to farm the land and to live there. Let me tell you, our kids, we spent a lot longer than we thought we were going to. Our kids were immersed as we read the signs and talked to them about how they lived in these little houses and what they used, how they used the corn, and what they used to farm with. They have tools, they have the animal pens. I mean, it's everything. It is definitely a must-do, must-see, even for adults, but especially with kids. And then once you leave, you just go about a mile up the road and turn to the opposite side, and you're right there at Mingus Mill, which is also a must-see.
Which
kind
was
of gathering
Sky's
those
favorite.
together.
One of the things she loved
it was one of Sky's favorites. It is an old grist mill that was used for 100-something years there. But what's interesting about it is it's not a water wheel; it's a turbine, which is it was actually the first one. It's amazing, and they still have it all set up. They have somebody there that can talk to you about it. Both of those two are definitely must-sees going right into the park there at Econo-Lufty.
Right, so one of the favorites that we had in all of the Smoky Mountains, either side you're staying on, are the animal experiences. And those are some of our iconic times together, seeing things we've never seen before and animals we've never gotten to get up close with. And so this national park did not let us down. Right actually in front of the Kanalufti Visitor Center, there's a huge field, and it is just a place that the elk and turkey love to be in. And so in the evenings, after we've been driving around, we would come back through, or earlier in the mornings, those are the best time to see the animals. We would drive through, and our kids would count them. They would press their faces up against the windows in order to see if there was a turkey, or if they could spot an elk, or what they could see. And so I would say that has been one of our top things that we got to experience, were animals that our children had never seen before, had never learned about before, and never experienced that close before.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. What sound does a turkey make?
Gobble, gobble.
What sound does a horse make?
Neigh, neigh, neigh.
What sound does a bear make?
Roar. Roar.
My God.
I was wondering what you're doing.
What sound does an elk make?
That's all I do.
Virginia.
Take a picture, take a picture. Take a picture.
That's awesome.
once you're finished at the entrance, you're ready for a long, leisurely, beautiful drive
Right.
up the mountain.
It's pretty, wasn't it?
It is amazing. And so our next family pro tip is this. Plan extra time. Don't get in a hurry on these drives. There are so many pull-offs, and I mean, literally almost every one of them is worth pulling off to look at the overlook, to look at the waterfalls. It is just one thing right after another. This is one of those times that you really want to slow down, take your time, and enjoy those amazing, amazing views.
Yes, and one of the other tips that we have on those long leisurely drives is something that I found ahead of time, and it was invaluable to us, and it was Gypsy Tour. It is an app that is on the App Store that you can download. There is a cost to it, but
Totally
you
worth it.
really want to do this. It had so many incredible historical stories, funny stories, all kinds of just tips of when to pull off and what trails you
It
should
actually
do.
uses, when you pull it up, it uses GPS technology to track where you're going. And so it's not just like all these random things. As you're driving along, it knows where you're at. And it says, hey, coming up on your right, you want to be on the lookout for this and this.
That's right.
Coming up on your left, be sure to pull off at this. I mean, it is so amazing. The
Yes.
stories, the history, so worth it. I don't know his real name, but we got to jokingly calling him
What do we
Gypsy
call
Jim.
him?
We called them Gypsy Jim.
Like visitor information centers, and finishing in time for the NPS's 50th anniversary in 1966. And, well, you can count me as one of the untold millions.
Gypsy Jim.
Gypsy Jim.
He was our friend, and he's so good, and he's so interactive. What did you think about Gypsy Jim, about having the Gypsy Tour, the Gypsy Guide? What did you think?
I liked him a lot.
You did. What did you like the most about it?
That actually, he would tell you where everything is.
Yeah, and did you like the stories? Were they funny?
Mhm.
Yeah, it was really,
Great.
really interactive. It was great for kids. So if you have a family, or even
for
if
adults.
not, we learned
I mean,
more
really,
than
I
we
was
would
about
have
to say,
ever known about the Smoky
If I didn't
Mountain
have a kid
National
in the
Park.
car, I still would have wanted to.
Yes, because we would have learned so little about the national park
It's
had we
amazing.
not been here. I mean, we
It's
learned
like having
so
a park ranger
much.
in your car
In your car.
the entire time you're driving.
And I love what you said about the GPS, because they'll tell you, it's like, well, this one you could probably skip, but
Yeah,
you can come back
great.
to it. Or if you're a hiker, over to the left is a
Mhm.
great hike, or here's a quiet walkway. We wouldn't have known any of that had we not had this amazing app.
Gypsy
So
Guide.
you've got to have it, and it's for most of the national parks and iconic drives. So even if it's not the Smoky Mountains, you
Check it
want to
out.
see where you are and see if there is a tour guide for that.
And then when you get to the top of the mountain, you're going to be greatly rewarded, because at the pinnacle of the mountain, you're going to come to our next must-see.
Where
In
is
fact, on the North Carolina side, it is our #1 must-see.
Where is
And
it?
It is
The Clingmans Dome.
Clingmans Dome. Was that your favorite place that we went in the Smoky Mountains? Yeah. And what did you like most about Clingmans Dome?
That actually, you got to go up high at home, and then you could see 7 states.
Yeah, on a clear day.
That's what they
That's
say.
right.
So you hike to the top of this tallest peak, and on that they've raised up a higher observation deck. And so you are literally at the top of the world as far as the Great Smoky Mountains is concerned on the
Yes.
North Carolina side.
What did it look like?
Beautiful.
What did this tower look like? What did Gypsy Jim say it looked like?
Like, it looked like a alien spaceship.
It does
Flying
look a little
saucer.
bit like a flying saucer. And what did you think about the hike up there? Was it really easy, or was it a little bit challenging?
A little bit challenging.
It is. It is definitely one of
It's
the
not long. It is steep.
very, very steep. And so just be aware of that. Be sure, number one, bring your water.
Yep.
Number two, it's okay. There's tons of stop-offs all along the way.
It's
Take
paved,
them.
Paved
Yes.
the whole way, and probably literally every 20 or 30 yards there's a bench on the side.
Yes.
They know what this is.
It's
And we saw
very
all
high.
ages, health levels, and everybody was slow
Yeah.
and steady. And as we were coming down, we would tell everybody, keep going, it's worth it.
It
Keep
is
going,
worth
it's worth it. 'Cause
it.
when
And
you
our
get up
twins did
there,
great. Yeah, our twins did great. We just took our time. We took it nice and slow. But was it beautiful along the way too, though? Over when you're going up over to your left-hand side, you're just greeted with beautiful views. So it helps you to stay motivated to keep going. But would you say Clingmans Dome is your #1? Christopher loved it. We did it more than once.
I actually did it twice.
Yeah, we did it twice, and also there were some really great places to climb some rocks that he enjoyed, and we also got our passport stamps there. There is a place there for your passport stamps and also your little national park ranger thing. So there's a lot to do there, so you don't want to miss it.
And then on your way out, just across the street, you definitely want to take just a few moments and stop in a Newfound Gap and see the beautiful views there as well. you've kind of done the main entrance, you've gone through Cherokee, up into Clingmans Dome, now you're ready to move around the park a little bit and hit that next tourist city, which is Bryson City. It's only about 20 minutes away from Cherokee. Much smaller, little community, smaller little town. Still super neat. The actual Great Smoky Mountain Railroad is there in the town. But the next must-see for us is just inside the park right there at that entrance, and it's Deep Creek. This was an amazing, amazing place. So beautiful. We actually went thinking we were going to do one short little, like, 3/4 of a mile hike up to a waterfall. But as we started looking around and looking at the map, we realized there was actually an opportunity to do a much bigger one. And so we would recommend doing the Deep Creek Waterfall Loop. Just follow that. It's a 3-mile loop that goes up. You get to see 3 different waterfalls. It goes up to the top and loops around. Or if you want to cut a little bit of that off, you can do a 2-mile version, which basically you still see all 3 waterfalls. You just hike up to the top one and right back down, so you just backtrack. But it is beautiful because that whole section is right along the river. And so you get to see Juniwank Falls, Tom Branch Falls, and Indian Creek Falls, and then just hike right back down, downhill the whole way back down. It's smooth, it's graveled, it's wide. It's a great, great, amazing area.
It is. And even for our kids, doing that length of a hike was really doable because there's so much to see all along the way. So it isn't like one of those hikes that you have to hike a long way to get the big payoff. There are 3 different waterfalls, and they're very different.
Very
completely.
different.
And that's hard to imagine when you're on the same hike, but they are completely different. And we saw people swimming. There was a lot of swimming, a lot of tubing, a lot of fun things that people were doing all the way. So bring your swimsuit. If your kids like to get in, you're going to have that opportunity. And it's really a wonderful surprise for us because we did not anticipate that, but we kept seeing signs for falls just a little bit further. So we just kept going a little further and a little further, and we're so glad we did. So if we were to do it over again, we would plan that we might even bring a lunch. There are lots of places to sit, to take in the beauty, picnic tables. There's these really cool bridges. There's a lot to do there. So if it were us, we would go back and do that again, but we would spend more time. We would take a lunch or some snacks, and we would just enjoy the day, let the kids swim, and really just make a day of it, for sure.
It's a great location because once you get done with that, you can go early and then come back through Bryson City, and there's so many neat little things to see there. There's so many mom and pop restaurants and a couple of amazing ice cream shops. And this actually is a mistake we made that brings us to our next pro family tip. You want to call ahead when you're planning your stuff, because so much around Great Smoky Mountains is tourist focused. They have really kind of wonky seasonal hours, and so you look online, you think you know what's going on, but no, actually during these 2 months we close at 3, and during this month, so in Bryson City we were going to go to High Test Deli, which is supposed to have these amazing ice cream sandwiches.
We were so ready.
We had it planned. We did our hike. We were coming back. It was going to be the reward. We got there at 4:30.
And they
closed at 3.
And there were even people sitting out with all the yummy stuff, and we had just missed it. So yes, do your research, call ahead, especially during COVID or any other time, seasonal times. Make sure you know.
Anytime.
Anytime.
Because they have such seasonal hours. And this is our first question. If you've been there, you need to comment and tell us if those ice cream sandwiches are actually worth it.
We would love to hear.
We weren't sad
we might have to go back.
because we were able to go next door to another cute little ice cream place. So much to do. Again, we said the Great Smoky Mountains, actual railroads there. You can ride the railroad if your kids are into trains.
Wonderful.
We've been to the train museum, the miniature train museum. It's unbelievable. So if you've got boys into trains, that's a must-do as well for you. So don't miss out on all the fun that's in Bryson City. can't talk about Great Smoky Mountain without talking about hiking. We love hiking.
We do love hiking.
And there is more hiking to do at Great Smoky Mountains National Park than you can even imagine. I mean, just even taking out the Appalachian Trail that runs through there, just all the other hikes, there's just so many great hikes of so many different levels. Use that app that we talked about. It's a great way to find which ones are family friendly. So many ones. And so that's our next pro family tip, is if you're looking to do especially one of the big hikes, go early. Many of the hikes, especially ones that are deep in the park, right on the main road, there's not tons of parking. And so literally, like, we passed some that people were probably hiking a mile on the road
before they even got to the trailhead.
So first pro family tip,
especially if you have children,
is go early.
You're going to want to go early because you don't want to spend all of your kids' energy time before they even get to the trail.
So the next thing, we did a lot of small hikes, and one of the beautiful things that we found at Great Smoky Mountain National Park were quiet walkways. Great opportunity.
Actually, our friend Gypsy Jim from the app that we listened to was the who told us about the quiet walkways. And what I love about that is, especially with children who have some mobility issues and special needs, this is a great opportunity, or young children, or just folks that aren't interested in the big long hikes or really doing a lot of that. These quiet walkways are just literally right off the road. So you have this main road through the park, and they are right off of there. They're very short, they're very quiet, and you just basically just step off into a beautiful area that is short and manageable. So if you aren't a hiker, but you do want to get off that beaten path and you want to get out of the car and stretch your legs, enjoy some of nature, make sure you check that app and make sure that you kind of take advantage of some of the quiet walkways, because they are beautiful. And we found some of the most incredible sights that we saw off those quiet walkways. And I'll tell you, even when it's busy on the road and in the Great Smoky Mountains, not many people know about the quiet walkways, and so you'll have it to yourself, completely to yourself, and that is really nice when you're going during summer or some of the higher traffic times.
So why don't you help us out? Tell us about what are some of your favorite hikes in Great Smoky Mountains. There are so many. We only did a couple. We want to hear from you guys. If you've been to Great Smoky Mountains and you did an amazing hike, let us know about it, and let us know how family friendly you think it was. And so that is all of the North Carolina side of the Great Smoky Mountains, which brings us to our last pro family tip. You want to stay a long time.
Yes.
We stayed for 2 weeks. We've already talked about we wish we'd stayed on both sides rather than just one. But we spent almost 2 full weeks there, and there was still so much that we didn't even get to do. We didn't even get to, because of COVID, and they weren't having any of the ranger programs, the interactive things, like all of those things were still shut down, and we still didn't do all the stuff we wanted to do. And
we didn't get all the hikes in that we wanted to. There were some real iconic hikes that we didn't get a chance to do just because you run out of time. So make sure you plan enough time.
Spend as long as you can.
Yes, and so that you can rest in between those hiking days and those long travel days. You really need some time to recoup and rest and not run yourself ragged. So if you can stay a while, be sure to do it.
So we hope this has helped you to have as much fun at Great Smoky Mountains as we had.
Yes.
We will definitely be back again. And don't forget that we're going to be back next week with the second half of this video, part 2, where we talk about all of the Tennessee side of the greatness of the Great Smoky Mountains. And so until then, go out and have some crazy fun with your family. See you next time.
Bye, guys.
So we hope you found this video helpful. If you did, give us a big like. You can also subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on any of our fun family adventures as we share our faith, family, and fun with you every single week right here on our channel. If you missed our last video, you can also click right over there and check it out right now.
Yes, and don't forget, we read and respond to every single comment. It's so important to us. So we had 2 questions we want you to answer. Have you been to High Test Deli? If you have, should we go back and get those ice cream sandwiches? And number 2, what hike is your absolute favorite must do? We want to know that.
See you next time.
Bye, guys.